What we do in life echoes in eternity.
Is this the first of the year? That's it, right? I want to keep my gloves on. It's so cold out. So this is the one of 3 watchtowers until for the foreseeable future, right?
Yeah.
I heard it's going to be.
Our format a little bit now.
I think I heard it's going to be 1 watchtower for January, February, March, and April. The first awake.
Yeah.
You're going to see it's
So
going to be like
every
a
2 months.
be like a rotation.
Yeah.
And it was 6 a year for a couple of years.
Yeah. We used to have one new one come out every month, like a watchtower annually every month, but we've kind of trying to streamline it and put the focus more on Bible study.
Just get right to the study.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that, I guess, the article is going to talk about. If you'd like to learn more, let us know right away, because.
I mean, this like all our articles, that's where they come from, is the Bible. So
yeah, right.
It makes more sense to focus on the Bible as opposed to printing all this information that's based on it. But yeah, so.
Say that again?
Oh, printing information. You print a lot, and maybe people read it, but then it goes, it gets old and new ones come out, so it's more efficient.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Let them be meditating for 2 months on one magazine, as opposed to 2 magazines for a month before there's more.
Exactly. Yeah.
Have you been? Is that your take, or have you been? Because I haven't heard it explained that way.
I just think it's really efficient for it saves money. Like
saves money.
It's expensive to print all the.
Yeah, right. Hey guys. Hi. Nice to meet you.
Blade.
Hi. Lee? Blade. I'm Stuart. Hi.
Paula.
Hey, Paula.
Simone.
Hey, Simone. Nice to meet you. Yeah, I had heard that the magazines were being reduced down to 3 a year and 3 a year, and Paula was saying, well, it makes sense. Get people studying sooner. Don't inundate them with a bunch of Bible-based literature. Just have them sort of reflect on something.
What else we were just talking about too was all the languages that we're printing.
Oh yeah, right.
Now. So for the translation work, it's
that's right.
Makes it a lot simpler for everybody.
We're having such success. We're going to make it a little easier on ourselves, and just do it every 2 months, because our translators are we're running our translators ragged here. Yeah, so please study with us, because we can't keep up with our own success. I used to study actually once upon a time.
Yeah.
It was a very positive experience.
Yeah.
I think a person is going to learn things studying the Bible with Jehovah's Witnesses that they're definitely not going to learn anywhere else, right? Am I asking when you got the truth, by the way? How old are you?
I was raised in the truth. My
Okay.
parents were both witnesses.
When did they get the truth?
My mom was raised in the truth as well, and then
Your
my
mom was
dad I think he got it later. Yeah.
Right.
And then
so he was. Your mother was taking it seriously. Your father finally.
I think before they got married.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
So then, with the marriage, it became a group effort. Yeah, right.
Exactly. And then
but you were raised from birth as a brother.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yourself? Am I asking?
But I mean, I was also raised in the church.
You were raised in the truth. Your parents got it before you were born. I
Yes,
guess.
separately.
But separately.
Yeah.
Okay. And Paula, when did you get the truth?
Paula? Simone.
Oh, Simone. Paula, Simone. That's right. Yeah.
Billy's my brother, so we were both raised.
So
in the church.
okay.
Yeah.
So you're all pretty much second generation witnesses.
Yeah.
In our family we have 5 actually.
You guys have
You have 5.
Yeah.
Out of how many siblings?
Just the 2 of us. Yeah, but my parents and then her mom and her grandma.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're the 5th.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
But
Yeah.
I didn't get started. Like I was baptized when I was 13. I don't know. You were 14.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
You were 13. You were about 14.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when I knew. Like, I mean, we studied when we were little, but when I decided to really make this my own was when I was 13.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
I was about 18.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I was. It was just a little piece of literature,
Oh yeah.
and it was just the reasoning on the scripture that just blew my mind. Right. So I wanted to investigate further.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the couple that started studying with me, that took me on,
Yeah.
they were coming to get me at home. I was in college at the time. They were coming to get me at my home,
Yeah.
bring me to their home to have the study, and then bringing me to school when we were done for my first class.
Wow.
So they were going out of their way,
Yeah.
and that
Well,
made
of course.
such an impression
Yeah.
at the time, right?
Awesome.
And then about 6 weeks later, I went to the first meeting,
Yeah.
right? And I guess they had been talking about me a little bit, sort of saying, oh, there's this nice young man that we're studying with, and we're excited about the progress he's making, and please be nice to him when he comes, we're hoping we'll see him at a meeting soon. So that first meeting I went to,
Yeah.
I was obviously not a brother. I was just a Bible study. So I wasn't dressed properly. I probably had that deer in the headlights look. And like 40, 50 people are coming up to me going, "Oh, you must be Stuart. You're studying with brother and sister so and so." And I was like, "I guess that's me. I guess that's me, right?" Because you know the way you guys are with like newly interested people.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
kind of like,
So excited.
"Oh,
It's exciting.
what's their story?" Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was about 18,
Yeah.
and then I moved out. I quit school because it had such a profound impact on me. I spent 2 years in college. I left in third year because it was sort of between the studying of the Bible with Jehovah's Witnesses and what I was learning at college. It was clear I couldn't do both.
Yeah.
I had to commit. I like to commit, right, so that I can get the most out of something. So when I was about 24, I got baptized.
Yeah.
And I had a nice, long experience, doing metro witnessing and pioneering and studying with people. But I eventually had to stop. I had to stop taking it quite so seriously because I kept discovering that what was being presented to me as what the Bible really teaches wasn't what Watchtower was saying 10, 20, 50, 100 years prior the Bible was really teaching. So then I said, well, okay, hold on a minute. Is something true because people are raised, exposed to it? Is something true because more and more people believe it and spread it and translate it? Or is something true because it proves to be as true tomorrow as it did today and the day before? And unfortunately, I couldn't say that about what Jehovah's Witnesses teach. So I had to stop studying.
That's everybody's choice, right? Everybody's free to make.
Everybody's free to make that choice, yeah. And of course, there are some scandals developing with the organization right now. Are you guys aware of some of them? Some of the court cases and some of the investigations and some of the scandals?
Not currently, no.
Not currently. The class action lawsuit being filed in Ontario?
No.
$66 million class action lawsuit being filed against Watchtower. You know how many people have to come forward for a class action lawsuit to be filed?
Yeah.
A lot of people. So are those just like disgruntled ex-believers who want to have a little money and a little audience to whine, you think? Or you think those are genuine abuse victims who've got a case to make against?
They may, well, maybe that's in many cases. But I don't understand what that has to do with your relationship with Jehovah. Because for me, like, my relationship with Jehovah is what comes first, and there might be imperfections that happen even within the organization.
That's right.
So
That's right.
I can't really let that affect me.
But don't Jehovah's Witnesses make the claim that only Jehovah's Witnesses, only people who worship Jehovah according to the system of religious belief and practice outlined in Watchtower will survive Armageddon? Those are the only people?
Those who are applying Bible principles is not really up to us to decide. That's up to Jehovah.
So the application of Bible principles to the degree acceptable enough to be worthy of life is what you guys are doing and nothing else.
Is there any other organization that's doing it?
Well, that's the thing. There isn't an organization, but the Bible doesn't have the word organization in it once. It doesn't have the word governing body in it once.
No.
See, these are developments that have taken place in Watchtower history. And unfortunately, I've spoken to witnesses before about this, and they say, well, even the apostles had some wrong ideas, wrong expectations. And so the literature will say, sometimes we've had to make refinements and we wait for new light and we make adjustments. But the difference between that and the first century was the apostles weren't sort of holding consequences over those believers in the first century, whereas Watchtower, like for instance, prior to 1952 and prior to 1981, you guys know that Watchtower was against disfellowshipping, right? Like you have to go to the 1948 Awake to find the actual article. Are you also excommunicated? That's the name of the article. You can find it online, where the brothers were sort of pointing a finger at the Catholic Church for practicing excommunication, which is essentially the same as disfellowshipping and shunning. They're saying it's not loving, it's not necessary, it's an exercise of power and control. Fast forward,
First century Christian.
That's what I was just saying. Did you hear what I was saying about like the first century Christians weren't insisting that these are requirements for life, and if you didn't meet them, there'd be consequences. Whereas now, a lot of people are deciding to leave the organization. A lot of people.
You seem to know a lot about us, and obviously because you studied and you're baptized, and you chose to go a different route. And
well, I'm still a student, right? And that's why I'm interested in learning where the first exposure came to Jehovah's Witnesses, and in your case, you were all born into it, right? And I've spoken to witnesses before, and I've said, okay, because when I started getting into preaching, it was about the offer for the month, the offer for next month, the offer for the month after that.
Right.
And if someone had taken enough of an interest in those offers, they suddenly, overnight, changed from offers for the month to requirements for life. So now it's about, okay, well, I guess I better become an unbaptized publisher. I guess I should look at becoming a baptized publisher. I guess I should look at becoming an auxiliary pioneer if I can auxiliary pioneer. What about if I can regular pioneer? And then fast forward 5-10 years, I like my chances of surviving Armageddon if it were to come today, right?
But it's not necessarily true that you need to be all those things in order to kind of...
It isn't. It isn't true. I mean, it's true that you don't have to do those things. What do your circumstances allow?
Exactly.
But there's such constant reminders that these are opportunities for you, and your friend will do it, and somebody else will do it. And in the congregation I was in, they sat together. The regular pioneers sat together.
They're all good friends.
They're all good friends, and then literally probably one of the most disappointing experiences of my life was when I had started regular pioneering, and then I was able to go to that first regular pioneer meeting.
Oh yeah, the third overseer.
The attitude of the regular pioneers who had been doing it for like 5 or 10 years, whereas I had just been doing it for 1, and I was so excited. The first meeting as a regular pioneer, what are the spiritual gems that only regular pioneers are going to be able to get? And there I was, so excited, but the attitude from the other regular pioneers, because I was just a 1 year, and I started thinking, where is the enthusiasm? Where is the championing of the full-time ministry, even for somebody just starting out, right?
Yeah.
And then I started to see the political opportunism of brothers, the cliquiness and the gossiping of the sisters, and that's why I started doing real research, because organizational policy is making all of this ugliness possible. And then I started asking some really tough questions, like how many Jehovah's Witnesses martyr themselves every year in a hospital bed? How many Jehovah's Witnesses, after being disfellowshipped, kill themselves because they can't handle not being able to see their own flesh and blood? And of course, how many Jehovah's Witnesses kill themselves after being abused by one of Jehovah's Witnesses and have that abuse treated as though it never happened because there wasn't a second witness, or because their abuser didn't confess? That's a lot of people. And unfortunately, the only organization in a position to tell us exactly how many people are killing themselves because of Watchtower policy is Watchtower themselves. And of course, they're never going to do that.
Do you mind me asking, like, since you've gone into this research on your own and gone into your own research, and have you found like a outlook for the future and like?
Well, that's the thing. That isn't the point, right? It's like
Kind of is.
No, it isn't, because I was in a burning building, being one of Jehovah's Witnesses, and somebody said, "You're in a burning building. They don't have to offer me, a pass to Disneyland. They just have to help me get out of the burning building, right? So I don't have to replace the hope with something else. That isn't the point. The point is that I'm being honest about the research I'm doing, and I'm being honest about what I believe. And I thought I was also at the same time standing where you're standing, and unfortunately, it wasn't true. Like, the blood, the shunning, the faithful and discreet slave, the generation, the superior authorities, aluminum, transplants, celebrations, facial hair, grooming. I mean, it kind of adds up, right? And then that with some of the attitude that I was seeing, and it's interesting that the people who I'm talking to, who are still doing the cart witnessing, 8 times out of 10. And I've talked to maybe 20 of them so far, 8 times out of 10, they're second generation witnesses. They were raised in the truth, or they started studying at 18 years of age or younger when they're quite impressionable. And of course, who doesn't want to keep studying the Bible if it means surviving Armageddon, which is coming at any minute, right? And especially as children, we really want to cling to that safety, right? So I just find it interesting.
Quite a lot in Vancouver are raised in the truth.
Yeah. Oh, so you're saying that's just exclusive to maybe Vancouver, British Columbia?
No, I don't think so. I just think, like, among a lot of my friends, you're all raised in the truth. But you eventually get to a point where you need to take it seriously, and you can't keep continuing in the ministry, going to all meetings, if you're not serious about the truth. So
Right.
you get to a point where you have to decide.
But when you say the truth,
Yeah,
what do you mean?
the truth that's found in God's Word, the Bible.
Okay.
Yeah,
As explained to a sincere student by Watchtower.
as explained. Yeah, the faithful and discreet slave does provide tools, but it's up to us to decide whether or not we want.
Right.
We have to do our own research.
But if you're only doing your research into Watchtower through Watchtower publications, doesn't that make you sort of ignorant? No offense?
No.
It doesn't make you ignorant.
Okay,
I'll ask you a question. If you're only looking to Watchtower, to learn about Watchtower, how does that make you well informed?
That's what Jesus talked about when he talked about the faithful and discreet slave.
The faithful and discreet slave, who now are exclusively the governing body, who like 5-10 years ago were all of the anointed, right? So that's what I'm saying. There's this change in interpretation of the scripture, and every time there's a change, you see more confusion. You see more political opportunism.
Yeah.
You see the governing body sort of, whereas they used to be anonymous, now they're in this rotation of hosting those episodes. You find that the governing body members doing that, the mediators between God and all of humankind, doing those episodes, is drawing more people? Have you found that you're talking to people who are like...
I'm not really sure what your point is, but
Can I ask you what your goal is in
this
this
conversation.
My goal is to have a discussion about, the Bible and Watchtower and what... Because you guys are obviously very sincere. And I'm very sincere as well.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are also very sincere.
I
So.
don't doubt that at all. Like, I'm sure you are. But our goal is to share scriptures with our neighbors today.
Okay. Well, you're in a public place, and I have as much right to have this discussion
For
as
sure,
you.
yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
So do you find that the governing body members hosting those episodes is drawing people? It's evidence of Jehovah reaching out to
I'm not
his
sure what
sheep.
your question is.
Well, the purpose of your organization is to draw people to the true and living God before the end comes.
Yeah.
To preach the word.
Yeah.
So the time and the energy and the investment and the money and the resources that have gone into those JW broadcasting episodes, presumably, is in furtherance of that goal. So you think that that's having a positive impact? Are you noticing that people are responding?
Yeah, they are.
So you started a Bible study, or you talked with someone who said, "Oh yeah, and I saw one of those broadcasting episodes with one of your governing body members. I really enjoyed that."
I haven't
Tell me
personally
about.
heard an experience about that, but
You haven't?
No.
Okay. How about you? Have you heard an experience where a newly interested person has seen one of the broadcasting episodes and is like, "Oh, I think I found the true religion,"
a friend is studying the Bible right now. She's coming from the territory.
Okay.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, she watched the one on women in August, and she loved it. She really appreciated it, and it touched her heart. So, yeah.
And that was sort of her awakening, that first little spark that got triggered, and then she wanted to study, or was it something in the literature, or a meeting she had been to, or?
Well, she'd been contacting the territory, and honestly, she really wasn't that interested.
Okay.
She had told me, but there was just something about it that she.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, because I've talked to other witnesses, and I've asked them about that, and they're saying that's not really the point. The point of the episodes is to sort of unify us, meaning you guys, right? To see the governing body members up there and feel connected to them. Whereas before, governing body members were anonymous, like they translated the Bible and they would dispense spiritual food, but they were kind of out of the spotlight.
Yeah.
And then you see somebody like Toni Morris and Sam Hurd and David Splane and all the guys putting themselves in the spotlight, and it's like, wow, that's a bold move.
Yeah.
To be making the claim that they make about themselves, and to be holding themselves up to such scrutiny by hosting those episodes.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing, right? But what I thought was interesting also is that Garrett Loesch was given the opportunity to defend Watchtower policies in a court-ordered deposition in San Diego County a couple of years ago, where a gentleman by the name of Jose Lopez was suing Watchtower for having been abused by one of Jehovah's Witnesses and having that abuse treated as though it never happened because there wasn't a second witness and the abuser didn't confess. Your two-witness rule is making this kind of abuse possible. So he was suing Watchtower. The court asked Garrett Loesch. You guys know what's unique about Garrett Loesch?
I know what you mean.
Garrett Loesch?
He's in the Worldwide Headquarters, right?
He's a governing body member. He's the longest serving member of the current governing body. So I guess that's why they asked him, right?
Yeah.
So they asked Garrett Loesch if he wouldn't mind defending Watchtower's policies in a court-ordered deposition.
Yeah.
And what do you think he did? You think he appeared and gave a defense?
Not sure.
He refused to appear. He refused to appear, you guys. And instead, through Watchtower's legal department, he submitted a written statement where he disavowed having any connection to Watchtower. I am not an agent. I am not an officer. Watchtower has no authority over me. You can find the written statement online. They released it.
Yeah.
So I thought, isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Here is a man who is claiming to be one of 7 men who are mediating between the true God and all of humankind, who has the Holy Spirit operating in his life to such an extent, he can't appear in person to defend Watchtower policies, the two-witness rule, which we know in Australia has made it possible for over 1,000 alleged pedophiles to go unreported to the police. Between 1950 and 2006, that's what the Australian Royal Commission concluded, with the findings and the files that had to be handed over. In Australia alone, over 1,000 pedophiles went unreported to the police because of the two-witness rule, which is scriptural, but is also making it possible for the worst people to go free and unreported.
Do you think that Jehovah's an all-powerful creator, that he'll be able to fix this?
Well, see, if Jehovah is an all-powerful creator and Watchtower and Jehovah's Witnesses are his one true religion, it shouldn't be an issue in the first place. And it's not just a little issue, it is a huge issue in Australia, and now in Quebec there's a class action lawsuit. So that's what I'm saying, like, you know, you have the Bible and then you have Watchtower organizational policy that is making all of this possible, right? Like I was saying, how many Jehovah's Witnesses kill themselves every year after being disfellowshipped and not being able to cope? How many Jehovah's Witnesses kill themselves in a hospital bed? Which wasn't always, you know, it was 1948 or 49 where they decided, you know what, no more blood transfusions from now on, by the way. We decided that scriptures say this. And then, of course, how many witnesses kill themselves after being abused by one of Jehovah's Witnesses and have that abuse treated as though it never happened by the judicial committee?
Should not be happening. And it's not
Well, that's
right.
the thing. It isn't right. And you know, people deserve some disclosure. Would you guys like to see some disclosure on those issues?
You know what, sir? I'm going to end the conversation right now because I feel uncomfortable, and
Well, I don't feel uncomfortable.
Well, that's good. I'm glad for you, but
How about you? Do you feel uncomfortable, sir? Can you think of some changes you'd like to see in the organizational policy that'll help prevent Jehovah's Witnesses from killing themselves to the extent that they are?
To be honest with you, I never heard of any of that.
You never heard of any of it? Well, unfortunately, you're not going to hear of any of it because you're only learning about Watchtower through what Watchtower teaches you. You're going to have to be a little more honest in your research.
Unless you have something else to offer us that's better than having a relationship with Jehovah God, like our conversation.
I don't really have to do that, so,
Okay.
I mean, that's not...
Well, it just seems like you're here to undermine our faith.
Well, it seems like you're telling me how I need to proceed in this conversation.
No, I'm just telling you I'm a
I've noticed that about cult members. Like, if the conversation doesn't flatter you, and if you can't control the conversation, you feel uncomfortable and want it to end. I've noticed that. Yeah. So what about some changes to, like, organizational policies? What would you like to see?
Uncomfortable, and I would like to end the
Okay.
conversation.
What about the 1919 teaching? Like, on what basis were the Bible students chosen
My
as
answer is
God's
still the
organization
same.
in 1919?
I
Have you
will
seen
not
some of
be
the
answering any more of your questions.
Have you seen some of the literature from 1919? The finished mystery? You know, it was taught that Charles Taze Russell was the seventh angel of Revelation. Did you know that? The seventh angel of Revelation. Yeah. What about prior to worshiping both Jehovah through Jesus? Did you know that Jehovah's Witnesses used to worship both Jehovah and Jesus? They changed the charter. Yeah. And you know that in the bound volume and on the CD-ROM, articles appear differently compared to the way they were worded in their initial printing. Yeah. And it's interesting, like, how can a person trust Watchtower when it comes to the direction they're currently giving regarding life-threatening situations when they've taken a variety of stances on medical issues over the years? How can a person trust Watchtower, you guys?
The only reason I do is because it's everything we expect in the Bible, if it's not in there, then we don't believe it. If it's from the Bible, and we see the reason from the Scriptures, which is God's Word, then we believe it. Like, I don't want to say I'm a witness because you're a witness, and that's it. You don't ask questions. No.
There's reason from the Scriptures.
Well, all of us have, I think you'll agree with this, we've all proved everything right through, and then we say, oh, yes, okay, now this is the truth.
This is the truth.
Right? We don't just take your witness and that's it. So,
may I ask when you first started studying the Bible with Jehovah's Witnesses? I was about 18.
Probably in the late 50s, I would say.
You were in your late 50s?
No.
In the late 50s?
In the late 1950s.
How old were you?
I was probably 10 or 11.
You were a young boy, so your parents started studying with you?
Well, yeah, we were studying with a witness couple, yeah.
At around 10 or 11, yeah.
But,
I've noticed that it's the indoctrination from a young age that keeps people clinging to the organization even in the face of everything that's happening, right? Like, who doesn't want to be spared at Armageddon that's coming any minute, right? And I've noticed that as children, like the majority of Jehovah's Witnesses who are still in the organization and not leaving, which thousands of people are doing, they're not leaving because the indoctrination started when they were very young. So you've been living with Armageddon hanging over you, in your case, since 1950 something, right? And you thought it was going to be coming in 1975, right? And then it didn't, and then you reasoned there, and you let Watchtower tell you how to view that a couple of years later. And now it's just coming at any time, right? But the thing is, like, there are so many other people in the world who have a love for God, who have a love for their fellow man, and who are way more sincere about their research and being honest with their findings than you guys, who, deserve life.
My family decided to become witnesses because of a tragedy in our family. My sister was killed in a car accident.
So we're going to see her in the resurrection, you guys. Let's, right?
We certainly hope so. That kept my mom.
Yeah, well, that's
knowing that she's going to see my dear sister. I think about that all the time too, and that's what made us really start to think, well, are we going to see her again? You know, it's a terrible thing, and it happens in a lot of families. Definitely, it's a terrible thing.
And the people responsible for that teaching, for that interpretation of the Scriptures, was the faithful and discreet slave, right? The governing body. But unfortunately, they will never be able to deliver on that promise. They are responsible for you believing that promise. Because there are a bunch of other ways to interpret those Scriptures. The governing body told you, no, it's going to be an earthly paradise. You will see your sister in the resurrection. Now get pioneering. Now underline your Watchtower. Now don't miss your meetings. Now get to your service groups. Now don't celebrate Christmas.
Wasn't that clear for us?
The end of our conversation.
Right?
Wasn't that clear for us?
It wasn't that way for you?
No, it took a long time. I celebrated Christmas when I was a young boy. We realized it was a pagan celebration, so we stopped.
That's right.
The resurrection hope.
Do you have family who aren't witnesses who do celebrate Christmas? Or are you all out of the world?
Yeah, there are some.
There are some. So Christmas is a pretty tricky time, I guess. It comes up and they know and you know, and you just kind of wait for it to pass.
Well, it's, what can I say?
That's right.
Nothing wrong with my presence and having dinner together. The Bible teaches us to be happy.
Right. But it doesn't have to happen,
on something that's not real.
Yeah. I can see that. I can see the celebration thing, yeah.
It's like the crucifix, for example. If Jesus was shot with a rifle, did they have somebody hang a rifle in the neck?
Right.
I often think of that, Besides, we know that too. It wasn't a crucifix.
So what's the comparison with Christmas? Sorry. To the cross and the rifle? Why'd you make that comparison?
No, I don't. There's no connection. I just think.
No connection. Just a point you felt like making.
I'm just saying, even the cross, you look it up, and it was a common thing to put somebody to death on a stake, an upright pole.
Right. Stauros.
That's the stauros.
Yeah.
But
nowhere in the Bible does it talk about two pieces of wood coming together to form a cross. He must have died that way.
I would not want to be in that little evergreen tree at Christmas time.
To be an evergreen tree at Christmas time?
I would not want to be.
Avoiding all the axes. Please don't drop me down and turn me into a pagan symbol.
Or I would want to be a turkey at Easter time.
A turkey at Easter, that's right. Yeah. They've got it tough. Yeah. Well, you guys haven't heard of the Australian Royal Commission and the class action lawsuit being filed in this country?
No, I haven't.
Interesting, yeah. Jeffrey Jackson appeared. Another one of the governing body member leaders. Yeah, Jackson. And he admitted, there must be a problem. And it was funny. He was having a conversation with the head counsel, and he actually said in the interview, You can find this on YouTube, where a lead counsel was asking him a question about his interpretation of the scriptural principle at play, and Jeffrey Jackson actually said, and I'm not kidding, he said, "I don't know, I'll ask Jesus when I see him." And he didn't have an answer. 2 weeks later, he submitted a letter saying, actually, upon further thought, we've decided that no, this is scripturally accurate, and we will be applying this in future instances, with the implication being Jesus spoke to him between that day and at the Australian Royal Commission and the time he wrote that letter. I mean, that is some peculiar behavior right there. You think Jesus really spoke to him, and that's why he wrote that letter?
Stuart, as I mentioned, our conversation is over, so I'd like you to leave now.
See, that's what I was saying. If you can't control the conversation and it doesn't flatter you, you just say it's over.
Okay.
Like you're trying to control it right now.
Can you please leave, or we're going to?
No, I'm not leaving. I'm not going anywhere. Yeah. But you should think about that. How many Jehovah's Witnesses are committing suicide every year because of organizational policy? When it comes to blood, when it comes to shunning, and when it comes to abuse reporting. There's no reason to not report pedophiles to the police, you guys. I mean, you have to let people who know what they're doing handle it. When I was a witness, I think the highest job I ever had was sort of a bookkeeping assistant. You know, I was in no position to talk to children who had been abused. And I know most brothers and sisters are window washers and window cleaners and janitors, and that's all fine and good. But how does that qualify you to sit in on a judicial committee talking to a child who's been abused? Right? It's a little out of your depth. Right? Just like thinking that you know everything there is about the Bible is a little out of your depth when you don't even realize organizational policy that makes it possible for pedophiles to go free, you guys. And you admitted you didn't even know about it. So